Okay, let's unpack this. You might have seen it, this video that just, well, it swept across the internet, millions of views. It featured a really well-known comedian talking about his health issues and the claim that it was all down to chronic allergies. Things like eggs, milk, gluten, common stuff, and supposedly identified through blood tests. So our mission for this deep dive is to really get into the science behind these food allergen tests. Do they actually deliver? Especially since a listener asked us specifically to debunk this.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here, or maybe a bit worrying, is how fast something like that can spread online. How quickly it gets treated as, medical fact. It really highlights why critical thinking is just so essential right now.
Absolutely. And that brings us straight to Professor Lin's recent article. He really doesn't hold back, does he?
hmm
Right off the bat, he labels these specific tests, the ones involving IgG antibodies, as attacks on intelligence.
Strong words.
Very. And he goes further. He calls out the clinic from the video, linking it to what he terms functional medicine. Now, functional medicine, it often says it finds the root cause of chronic problems through lots of tests. But Professor Lin's view, he calls it fake medicine for commercial purposes. Basically, he argues the science just isn't there to support these particular claims.
hmm It's a key point.
Yeah.
So let's break down the science a bit, just simply. These food-specific IgG tests, what they do is measure a certain type of antibody in your blood, IgG. Your immune system makes these proteins when it encounters things, like food. And many clinics market these tests, saying, look, high IgG means this food is bad for you. It's causing your chronic symptoms.
Okay, so that's the pitch. But if that's the claim, why are so many experts like Professor Lin pushing back so hard? What's the disconnect?
That really is the core question. And it's crucial to
Right.
understand, it's not just Professor Lin. This isn't some fringe opinion. We're talking about the world's leading allergy organizations. They've been very clear and consistent for years. If you look at the bigger picture, major international bodies, think the European Academy of Allergy and Clinical Immunology, that was back in 2008, then the American Academy of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology, both in 2010, and just recently, again, April 2025, plus the Australasian and Canadian societies, they've all explicitly stated IgG food testing is not recommended, not for diagnosis.
Wow. Okay, so that's a global consensus, basically. So what's the scientific reasoning? What are they saying these IgG antibodies mean, if not allergy? Because antibody sounds like a problem, right?
Right, and that's the common misunderstanding they're trying to clear up. They state quite clearly that high levels of food-specific IgG, especially a subtype called IgG4, well, it's usually a sign of the opposite. It signifies immune tolerance. It's your body essentially saying, yep, I've seen this food before lots of times, and I'm okay with it.
So tolerance, like being familiar and fine with it.
Exactly. Think of it like your immune system getting used to the food, recognizing it as normal, not as a threat. It's a normal physiological response to eating a food regularly, not an allergy, not an intolerance.
So wait, when that comedian got his results showing high IgG to eggs and milk, the test was actually saying his body was tolerant of them, but he was told the opposite, that it was the cause of his problems.
That's precisely the issue. It's a complete misinterpretation of what the IgG antibodies represent.
Kind of mind-boggling.
It is, and it raises that important question Professor Lin touches on, using an example from a reader, Li Yixuan. This person apparently tested positive for over 70 IgG allergens, but could eat all of them with absolutely no problems. So what does that tell you about the test's value for predicting reactions?
Yeah, not much, clearly.
It's like that weather forecast analogy. If it says pouring rain, but you look outside and it's bright sunshine, you trust what you see. Right. And the risks aren't trivial. These tests cost a lot of money. They have no real clinical use in this context. And worse, they can lead people to cut out perfectly healthy foods unnecessarily, which can cause nutritional problems, not to mention a ton of anxiety.
Right, anxiety instead of actual health benefits.
Exactly.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the bottom line for you listening? The main conclusion seems crystal clear. These food-specific IgG blood tests. They aren't scientifically validated for diagnosing food allergies or intolerances. They really are, as Professor Lin puts it so bluntly, attacks on intelligence.
And knowledge is powerful, but only when it's understood and applied correctly. We'd really urge you to approach health information critically, especially if it seems like a quick fix or involves expensive tests that aren't backed by solid mainstream science. Always ask questions. Dig a little deeper. Your health decisions really should be grounded in established scientific evidence.
So, maybe the final thought is this. Next time you see a really compelling health story online, especially one pushing specific tests or treatments, just pause and ask, Is this backed by the weight of scientific evidence and major health organizations? Or is it perhaps an appealing narrative, an expensive shortcut that sidesteps real understanding? Food for thought.